everybody, it's Christina and back with another card for you today. We're going to be using the Studio Calico Atlantic paper collection. Really cute papers in here, so I picked out a couple of different, or two different patterns that I really like together. I really like this kind of ombre look with this zigzag pattern. So I'm starting off with the card base first, and this is a piece of white cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. So I'm just going to pull out my score buddy here and score it at 5 1/2. I almost did the wrong one. And then when I'm scoring, I like to take my cardstock and put it right up against the edge of the score buddy here and kind of use that to keep all my pieces straight. So that is my card base. Then I have my pattern paper, which is cut to 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, so it's the same length as the front of the card. Then I have this little strip of white cardstock. This is cut at 1 1/2 inches by 3 3/4. And then I have this pattern paper that I'm going to do some punching, so let's do that first. So I have this EK Success punch here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out a little border edge here with that. Whoop, I missed one there. So I'm going to cut this down using my paper trimmer. And I'm just going to cut off a little edge so it has a little edge on it too. I'm going to use that as a layer underneath that white piece. And I'm going to do another one of those. And again, I'll trim this down, no particular size. And I have my piece of white cardstock, and I am going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of this. And that's just so I can line up my border piece. So I'm just trying to line it up so that it's kind of even, like the ends are going to be a little even. Do the same thing on the bottom piece. I'm trying not to add too much adhesive on it because I am going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to try to line this up so that it's almost the same on both sides. Okay. Just like that. So I'm just going to trim off these little pieces, and then we'll go over to my sewing machine and we'll do a little sewing. Okay, so I did my sewing, and I'm just going to go ahead. I don't like to back stitch. I like to just stop, and then what I do is I pull the back thread, and then the front thread kind of pulls through, and then I can just pull them all through to the back, and then I take a piece of washi tape, and I use that to hold down my thread, and it also helps guide the adhesive over it. So that's the one side. I'll go ahead and do the other side now. Alright, now before I adhere this down, I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I'm using a Kelly Perky stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and I think they still have, this was brought out last September, but it's called the Rad Stamp Set, and I'm going to go ahead and mount this onto my Martha Stewart stamp press. This is one of my favorite stamp presses, especially for little sentiments like this. Says thanks so much. So I'm just lining it up on my grid mat and then lining the grid of that on my block. So I'm going to use my VersaFine ink, and the reason I'm using this is that I just like it. It has a nice, really good crisp black. It's called Onyx Black, and it's really good, nice crisp image that it stamps. So we're going to do the thanks so much. I'm going to put that right down in the bottom corner there. Okay, so I did a little heat drying on the thanks so much so that I knew that it was nice and dry before I went in and adhere this down. So I'm going to just use my tape runner. And I'm going to adhere that down, not in quite the middle, but a little lower. And I do need to trim down this little panel I put on. So luckily I didn't get too close with my sewing. Alright, perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to add a little bit of kind of color splash to this. So I'm just going to take my little lid here that I have a piece of paper stuck inside of, and I'm going to use two Mr. Huey's. This one is Sherbet and this one is called Orchard. And I am going to just kind of splash some color on. So this is kind of a lighter orange color. And then I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker one. So all I'm doing is shaking up my bottle, and then I take the top out and I just kind of flick the color on. Just like that. And then I will take my heat gun and dry that. Okay, so my little splash section there is all dry. I'm going to use my lawn trimmings. This is one of my absolute favorite lawn trimmings. Trims. I like the variegated look to it. So I'm going to take a lawn trimmings and tie a little bow on this. Let's see. Okay, with the lawn trimmings, I always like to add a little glue dot in the back of the bow just to hold it in place because the cord is thick. So there we go. So we have the little lawn trimmings. And now I'm going to dive into my glorious box of wood veneers. Became more of a collector of these than actually a user, so I'm going to try to use these a little bit more. So I'm going to use the Studio Calico Arrow. I don't know which size I want. So I think I'm just going to go with that smaller one. So I'm just going to use the little arrow, and then you can ink these up if you want to. I'm just going to leave it in the natural wood, and then I am going to add some glossy accents to the back of this. Adhere that down there. And then I'll turn this over. I probably should have put my arrow on last. I'm just going to go ahead and center this right at the top, and I might need to trim a little bit off at the bottom. Okay, I'll just take my scissors and trim that end off. And then the last thing I'm going to do is use my corner chomper, and I'm going to round the two bottom corners with the 1/4 inch side. Okay, so that is my card for today. A list of supplies will be down in the description of the video or over on my blog if you want to check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.